All right, I'm back. Well, my music ain't playing no more, man. I got no background sounds today, man. I'm gonna have to sing to myself. This ain't working. My computer died. I didn't charge it enough, so I got no background music. All right, I think we're pretty close. What is this? Yeah, we are. All right. Welcome. This is WHIV 102.3 FM, and we're at 10 o'clock. The stars, planets are all moving around, so that's how we know that. And this is 102.3 FM, and our moniker is We Honor Independent Voices. And this show is called Monkey Mind, and that is a spin-off of the a Buddhist term for your thinker. And it's that constant thing that's chattering at us and always wants us doing something, whatever it is. I do not have my background music rocking on me today, and I'm not happy about that. But c'est la vie. Yeah, so this show is dedicated, I guess, to brain cancer and then living in one's moment, which is kind of a good way to lessen the effects of the monkey mind, which is another term for it is like your ego or your thinker. And so it's kind of like a duality thing at least, which you can add to it. I'm in here wearing a mask now, a bandana, and yeah, this is going to be interesting. Have you ever heard of the other shows? Anyway, back in 2004, 2005, or something like that, I got diagnosed with brain cancer, and they roughly gave me like 6 months to live. And so a lot of the show has been about my treatment protocols and what I went through, and then I guess, like, I don't know, a little less than a year ago, I got another suspect area over my brainstem. So it's really been kind of dragging butt on figuring out what it is, because they can't really, or they don't really want to biopsy it because it's over my brainstem. So, words of warning, anything that I may tell you is maybe not as accurate as it could be. Yeah, but I've been really kind of tripping out on the solitude. I've been really kind of taking it in more, in a way, and wrestling with it, I guess. The chatter in your head, because it's like I talk a lot of what do you call it? I guess I don't know what do you call this kind of speech where it's all like being in your moment. I think I saw some comedian calling it spiritual and whatever. I mean, it's how you define things. So much of what we all argue about is not coming to terms with our definitions of what things really mean. So we're just really talking a bunch of smack with each other most of the time. Yeah, so it's a good thing to define things when you're trying to make a connection with somebody. And I think we don't celebrate enough our differences. Like a lot of the stuff I'm hearing just seems to be spreading to so much hate and fighting. Like our moniker here is End All Wars. And it really starts on a personal level. Forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, and being loving towards everybody. It doesn't mean that if somebody's hurting somebody else, you can't stop them and kill them even to prevent that. But you can do that in a loving fashion. It's like you got some things just can't cohabitate, and they'll hurt other things, and some of that's just nature, and that's okay. I mean, like a lot of people then take that with like animals, and I could see that, but I eat all I eat an all carnivore diet, so I eat all meat, so I don't really have that hypocrisy that I want to embrace. I'm okay with killing and eating another animal. and I think it's natural. It's the way this species, it's the way we evolved. And if you look at our health issues, so much is caused by our diet and our just it's a game of telephone that we've been handed down, and nobody's questioning it enough. And it's like too many people. I think that's a big issue. The masses. I mean, that's the whole trip that we got on. We got so, and maybe that's just part of the, I guess, the natural thing, and that's why we curb we kick up all these viruses. They're just natural ways to curb, the environment's population. Yeah. Like I think a lot of, I mean, look at our impulses. We're all like designed to breed. Sex feels good. It kicks off endorphins in us, and it's an impulse to do that stuff. So we're just kind of playing along with the game. But yeah, I just notice it too with just so much of the politics. It's just so. It's so kind of ridiculous in a way if we really look at what people are. It's like clicking up in different groups. And just fighting. It's war. It's just different kinds of war. It's like the Chinese guy from way back, the general Sun Tzu, and all his methodology was like how to take over an enemy without even utilizing your armies. And that's, I think, what this is. We perpetuate it, and it's like. It's just perpetuating hate. It's like, I used to always think like, like the quote liberal or whatever was really into freedom and celebrating that regardless of the outcome. Like I remember years ago, like listening to like, what was that lawyer's name? Like Leibowitz or something like that. And it seemed like he was always going, like he would represent a Klansman or something who's just full of hate or something, or just really preaching hate. And he's like, it's his right for free speech. You gotta protect the stuff that, and it seems like our culture now is so celebrating silencing people and keeping them quiet. Like you gotta fall in order on your just basic speech. And it just seems like a real just a drag. And like I've been watching all these, I got a few YouTube things that I watch, and one of them's really big on, I guess YouTube postings and stuff like that. And it's also like gamers and a lot of, I guess, the superhero movies and stuff like that. And it's just watching them edit for like China, and then for females. They'll put in like the girl doing something just to put a girl doing it. And I mean, yeah, I'm all cool with superhero women, but it's like, don't like Bond. Bond, I think, is going to change to be a woman, and they're changing Thor. I think Thor is going to be a woman. It's like, just make your own character and celebrate that. There's nothing wrong with being a guy. There's nothing wrong with being white either. It's like a carte blanche now where people can just hate on somebody who's Caucasian, and it's just like, that's just bull. What are you doing? I don't know. It's gonna be a drag, man. And then it's like I'm listening on like the guy before me. What is that? The broadcast. And he's just so just snarky about everything. I think it was Benjamin Franklin or something. I'm guilty of this too. Like a lot of this stuff I'm calling people out of, I'm just as bad. But yeah, it's just noticing it, and it's just trying to do better. And it's about forgiving yourself and forgiving others. It's a little bit saturated. But I think the real issue is the ego. It's the thinker. We are not culturally in tune with kind of seeing this duality in us. Where it goes, I guess, back to this spiritual moniker or something like that. But I saw this really funny comedian that was ripping on people like me. It was pretty funny. I was like, man, I've said a bunch of those things. And, but yeah. But they always had an analogy too. I was just thinking about it. If you want to see someone's true self, put a mask on them. That's like a lot of the whole carnival thing. It's the, get into the decadence. People are like getting all, crazy, like sexual and acting all funky and stuff like that. Their intention is to include. Oh, I'm getting my Reiki. She's saying it's to include the feminine. Yeah, I get it's to include it. Where did it ever go, man? The feminine's righteous. It's as much as part of the male. Cecilia. That's my Reiki. So one of the things that was part of my treatment protocol is was Reiki, and it was just like such a loving thing, because if you've ever been into kind of the medical field, it's just kind of, I think they've really, really lost track of a lot of stuff, and we all have this culture, and I'm gonna say every culture, since we started getting so big, we had to grow crops and stuff. That's thus why I eat carnivore. It's because it is how we migrated for a lot of years. And yeah, so I saw some documentary. Anyway, I lost part of my right frontal lobe during my surgeries and stuff like that. So it makes me have an even extra kind of impulse thing. Like when I hear something that I think is logical, I have a real strong impulse that I have to like embrace it. But I mean, that's always the kind of the case. I mean, who doesn't have that? If you hear something that sounds right, don't you want to kind of do it? But yeah, I just kind of noticed that. It's little things when you've had some kind of brain issue, the subtleties of it. Like a lot of people can't really see it. Like the show after this one is Listen to Us Live, and it's a mixed bag of traumatic and acquired brain injury. So that's of course like traumatic is like, accidents or head injury, head hit, whereas acquired means that like it formulates in your body like a stroke or cancer. My case, it was cancer. I had brain origin cancer, and that's become a real big part of my ego. Like that's a part of my like now story. So it's like turn the mirror on me. I'm as guilty of identifying with these things and trying to pump up my own story. And boy, doesn't it really expose stuff on us as being alone. I mean, it's such a, you can see why solitary confinement, I mean, people, that just drove a lot of people just crazy. But then I was watching a thing too on Keanu Reeves, and I was on some YouTube thing or something, where he was talking about most of the time he's very much alone. And I had heard some other stuff about him, like he was, I don't know, like he was kind of, yeah, I don't know. But so people who worked on the movie said the character that he displays is not really kind of how he acts. He's, but I don't know. But it's strange. I've never really thought I never really enjoyed his acting that much. I never got into The Matrix, but I keep wanting to because it seems pretty, I like the concept of it. I guess the film I liked with him was like that River's Edge. I thought he played that really good. But now he's big into bikes and stuff like that, which is cool. I do not yet know how to do, though I have a scooter now, but I don't really ride it too much. Streets are it seems so dangerous here riding bikes, just with our junky streets and our poor drivers. But yeah, I got these giant ape hangers now on my bike, so I feel extra unstable. So I'm trying to make it like a monkey bar now, where I have a lower grab on to it. But it's so nice getting out of the house. Like I've been walking down almost each night down to the Bayou St. John, which is just down the way, and just kind of checking out the water. And it's just nice. But it is also, it's just kind of lonely. You got a desire to kind of be around kind of people and stuff like that, and share stuff. But it is also then such a blessing too, with just having your quiet time and being alone, and then just practicing making peace with that, because it just seems like it's such a strong impulse, just this doing to do stuff, which I guess is pretty natural, because you gotta like feed yourself like an animal. It's almost always doing something for the it's either mating or it's eating. or running away from stuff, and or so it won't get eaten. But yeah, I kind of miss a lot here being in the woods, but I don't really go out for it because then you're just like, I don't know. It is tough not being able to share with people, and then it's also then like who you want to share with. I mean, you're just inheriting so much. I mean, we've all been, bred so much telephone chatter, from one generation to the other, like Teams and all this side stuff. Like going back to the whole thing, like I used to be like a really diehard, Democrat, liberal. I think I voted for Dukakis. Yeah, like that was like the first, I guess, election for my age. I'm 51 right now, and yeah, and then I just slowly started drifting, and now it's like I just don't think anything. But it's really just they're trying to make us fight. I think this is like gladiators for a modern age. Politics. It's picking two sides where they used to be, where they would just basically go off and yuck. I remember that kind of stuff where you'd have the head of the Democrat and then the Republican. They'd fight like cats and dogs at the Senate thing for the show, and then on the weekend they'd be having cocktails together on the golf course, and it was all just kind of BS. And then look at all of it. Everybody gets bloody just rich off of it, huh? I mean, it's just all power grab and it's all related to this ego thing. It's identifying with your ego. Like my mom's got really big into, I guess, Jesus Christ after I got brain cancer, which I can imagine. I mean, if I got 2 kids, and if one of them had this, I'd be, that'd be pretty brutal. But it's also, you want to remind yourself that, this is a very transient thing that we're in, and it's kind of very hypocritical to go into it like, wait, we're gonna die? It's like, yeah, we're gonna die. This is gonna stop. Like, enjoy your moment. Like, take a breath in it. One of my biggest mantras is saying, I can't say it on the radio, but it's like fudge duck, like, blanket. And not in a negative way, in a way like, yeah, this is kind of like so much of the stuff that we're arguing about or doing is really, if you break it down, it's just not really, but I mean, that doesn't have to bum you out either. Like I was trying to talk to a friend, because I had a very negative speak in my head before, like I was really ripping into myself for everything you could imagine. I was dogging myself prior to my diagnosis with brain cancer. And I eventually got turned on to Eckhart Tolle, and what he was kind of talking about, it really just drove home with me about really trying to practice being in my moment, and not identifying that so much with my monkey mind, or at least realizing that I have something else that's not as related to. I mean, but it is fun. Don't get me wrong, to identify with our monkey mind, our thinker. It's all our passion. It's what we kind of fight for, and that's kind of fun. But you also got to take it, and realize that it's a little bit. Yeah, just don't, kind of take it so seriously in a deeper sense. Like it's not really that. And I think so much of our problem is taking ourselves too seriously. And not laughing at things more. It's a good, one of the practices was that if you're not in a state of joy, ease, and lightness, then your thinker is running the show, your monkey, your ego. And I know ego that gets a lot of people, but that's your ego if it gets you, because of the Freudian kind of thing. I've had a lot of friends where I'm trying to share that with, that then they start, you can see their feathers get all ruffled, and they're, well, the ego and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, it's not, I guess, then what I mean, And that goes back to the definitions of us trying, and another person reminded me so much of trying to be right. Like, it's not a good thing. like embrace being wrong. Like I was noticing too, like a lot of the skills or things that I kind of enjoyed doing, I've really limited my growth in them because I tend to deviate from the failure. So I get kind of at that kind of stage at something where I can kind of control it and I'm not reaching out to take it further. Which is some balance with that. That may be some Tao in there where you're kind of saying more middle grounded, where you're not trying to ride so much of your highs and then lows with it. If I have the Tao right. I've been getting so much stuff from like YouTube shows. And but the other thing I really liked was like conspiracy, but that's my ego too. I mean, completely. And the medical profession and what they're doing. And I think a lot of this, if you look at really the numbers on this COVID thing is blown out of proportion. And then you watch how I'm seeing a lot of people online, like you can't really even say this in certain social media formats. If you talk out against whatever the press has agreed to is the social norm with this, if you're not towing the line, then they'll like kick you off, I think, of YouTube. I think they kick you off of Facebook, or they penalize you or something like that. I mean, it gets very Gestapo, you know? Seems like that way to me. Or it's not a turn on. I mean, I just think us speaking our mind and personal, you know, saying how you feel and stuff. And I just think we should really practice being in disagreements with people and then finding kind of the love in that. Like I've had some people that they didn't really know where I was coming from, and if they probably knew, they probably would have been like hating on me or something like that, you know. But then you can get along fine. I mean, it's just like how you treat people, and yeah, you know, it's kind of like the chicken soup stuff, or you know what they call that, the like little golden rules. Most of that seems to be, and most of our religions, if you look at what's really cool about them all, is they tend to embrace some of that stuff. The other stuff they also tend to embrace is they tend to be run completely by ego-minded people. That, yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, most every religion is pretty bat poop. My friend just got in a lot of trouble on Facebook because of the COVID thing. There was that, I don't know, urban legend that came from the soup at one of the that open market. And yeah, the China thing is really, really spooky. They are doing that Sun Tzu thing that I was talking about earlier. They really are. It's like you don't have to go to war with somebody nowadays. There are all kind of different wars. The weapons have changed. And even us, I mean, this country is definitely in a civil war and has been for a while. And I think the power people really like that. Like if you look at our politicians, they're, what is it called? Like the deep state? Yeah, it's intrinsic, it's families that are governing. They've gone into power. They hand this down from one generation to the other. It's like the wealthiest people that were like the the banker railroad families from way back. They did all our media and started just buying it all up and making it, one thing's bought by it, monopolizing it. Yeah, it's a big, sick little group. And then there's like the whole, like I remember a couple of years ago, it was like they were talking about this pedophilia and it sounded like totally stupid. And now it's like they're getting, busted and stuff. And it's like, oh man, that is crazy. But it's so much about us kind of getting hurt and then kind of perpetuating that hurt. Like my mom's big into more the Christian doctrine where people are evil. I'm not into that. I think people are basically good. It's just people start identifying more and more with their egos and groups. They are able to do very evil acts. And I think even some acts that negate your allowance to be around others. So you basically have to just take them out in a field and shoot them, but not in a mean way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, so much of it is what it is, and making peace with that. Like I was thinking when I had my last diagnosis with this suspect area over my brainstem, because I had like 14 years where basically they told me I was going to die. So I kind of had to wrap that around my head, and that was always like a big thing. But then I noticed too, like in the hospitals when I was around, I'd be next to a kid, like people saying, "Oh, you got saved for a reason." And I was like, "What possible reason could I possibly have?" Like I don't want to be a downer, but I don't know. So much I just don't see the point in things, and then that's kind of the point where it's like maybe a real. Like I've been wrestling with the whole, like another one of my YouTube shows I like a lot is this guy, and it's like I'm not gonna remember the name. It's hard for me to pronounce. It's like a Apothecus. He's referencing some Greek stuff. Like one of his niches is to he can read like ancient, or he knows Greek, so he's read all the original texts and so forth. But anyway, he is embracing the ether on space, where space is kind of like a shadow, whereas like the Einsteins and so forth are more like what termed I think as atomists, where they think everything is a particle, like light, everything is a particle. Whereas I guess the other entity is like, no, it's like there's things like a shadow. Like a shadow has properties, or maybe I'm not using the right term, so I don't really know how to do the speak, but basically it's a shadow's not a particle, and space is not a particle. It is what's a term like the ether. And I think quantum tries to get around it by calling it quantum foam or something like that, because it doesn't really fit into their equation. And so then it goes to the whole nothingness. Like I was always a thing, like there is no such thing as nothing. And I kind of embrace that, but I guess there are things that don't have particles. So, and that typically is how we define, I would say, something as it's a particle. But I think there's other stuff that is not non-particle. Ether. So I'm embracing the ether, and I think scientifically that's considered very not ignorant. Like nobody does. Like what's that face? The guy that I don't really like him, but he's real popular now. DeGracy or something like that. Yeah. And it's like I always love too. Like Tesla called Einstein, because they were contemporaries. Tesla called Einstein like a real goof. Like he was, he was smart, but he was like, ignorant too. Or not ignorant is not the right word, but he wasn't putting the two and two together proper. And so I like that. And like I said, I enjoy like these, having the Wizard of Oz, like seeing the curtain, because it just seems so much of this, like I mentioned with the diet thing. What we've been brought up on is we had millions and millions of years of evolution. We were migratory people. We weren't settled, which I think explains a lot of our mentality. We weren't like sitting around. We were always doing something, and so it's a distraction. Like our TVs, like I said, the gladiator thing back in Rome. That's how they were pumping people up and pacifying the masses. To see that the upper people were just like controlling it, of course, and it's only natural. You're going to control your stuff, and I guess potentially give it to your kids or something like that, and perpetuate your ego. So you're the grand poobah, and But I mean, it's really something to watch. I mean, and just practice. And I think it boils down to just going easy on yourself, forgiving yourself, and really just trying to be in your moment is so much the practice. And the fudge ducket thing. That's all my go-to. But yeah, it all comes down to, man, really noticing your moment. Like I remember, and it's really difficult too, because so much of us really just embrace all our pains. Like it becomes us. Like ideas, like that's the other thing this guy talks about, which other philosophers have. It's like we start to think we are our ideas, and we're not. We're not our ideas. I mean, that's just like, that's why we so passionately, embrace our ego as us. And I think I'd heard that the way you can kind of determine this whole monkey mind ego thing is that you can sit back and listen to your own thoughts. And that, so it's like you can sit back, if you give yourself a moment and just listen to it. And then what you can do a lot of times is then you'll, like someone like me who dabbles in trying to get more spiritual, then it goes, I'll start judging. And I guess it boils down to not judging as much, or not judging things. Yeah, it really does. Because then you start to judge that other monkey that's a little bit more ignorant. You're like, well, then you're like, you think you're the smarter monkey that's scolding than the other. That's poor bastard is still dealing with that. I'm above that. It's just two monkeys kind of talking to each other. But the practice of it is doing it. It's kind of like a dream, where if you were in a dream, a lot of times you don't know you're in a dream. But how you know that is like you can, separate and watch your dream. Now, if you're in the dream, I know that's the Matrix thing, and we can take the red pill, but man, there are a lot of pills out there, man. People be drinking some Kool-Aid. But it's also, about, like, I know people can't help it, because I used to be the same way with a lot of, like, this political stuff. I used to be spewing the same kind of, I thought everybody was if you weren't towing the line, you were just a racist, power. Yeah, I just had that, and it's just not really the case. I mean, yeah, you got people out there who are racist, but a lot of the racists, they can't help it, and that's how the culture they were brought up. It's ignorance, you know what I'm saying? And it's also about fighting begets fighting. That's another thing that I got taught to me. I believe that was by my beautiful Reiki, Cecilia, who was defending her feminism out there. But I think we're just identifying too much with, if you find yourself going for like hate, yeah, you're just running on and even the subtleties of it. You really just want to embrace, and the same goes back to me. Like if somebody's preaching this stuff that I'm not liking, I don't want to be going around and just like, bastard. And I have a tendency to do that. Where I was like, they're against me having my own freedom, doing what I want to do. But, it's, I was like this when I was doing marriage counseling. The therapist, one of his things was friendly strong. And I think it's a pretty cool way to go. Because you want everybody, I mean, if you love somebody and you love and, you want them strong, you want them healthy and doing their thing. And I think what I came away with trying to define like love in a way is basically non-judgment. It's like really accepting someone for what they are. And that's kind of more, and then having, I guess, that desire then, but that might be mating. I don't know, actually. I might fall into that. Like I notice all these like love songs are really just about sex. Like when they say, yeah, baby, I want to, love you. No, you just want to just poker. And vice versa. But, yeah, it's funny. And I was like, just, we want to like laugh and just kind of enjoy the things. But I was trying to think of what causes this like to keep going. Like there's got to be like that little engine, that's cranking, like the what was it always trying to do? Like Tesla, I think, was always trying to like create the perpetual energy machine. Like I was thinking it may have something to do with like gravity, but then I was really embracing that what we think of as gravity is actually more magnetism. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was on that other show that I'm butchering the name of it. It's like Theoria Apothecus or something like that. But he's like this bald guy, he's got tattoos. He's always talking about how fat he is and stuff. He's just not eating right. Not eating right. And was the other day I was trying to share this online with somebody who was talking about health or eating styles. And I mean, I got in with a vegetarian, and I was like, oh no, oh no. Vegetarians are very much gangsters. They're, I'm sorry, that is definitely a big judgment. They seem to be, or a few that I have spoken to, let me refrain from that, have been very vigilant on their belief system, on their eating style. Yeah, I guess I am too with this thing. I just, like I said, I saw that documentary and they talked about, it was all about evolution and eating and like how our styles were. And like, I guess it's been 4,000 years of us forming settlements, thus the crops, and then the population boom. Like a lot of the things that we eat, we haven't evolved eating it. And I want to say, a lot of people will say our stomachs are not like predators, but I Googled it, and I think they really, really are. Like a cow has like, basically, I mean, they're not really totally separate, I don't think, stomachs, but it has things that you would have to determine are like different containers to break down the grain. Grain is just not very efficient. Yeah, it's not a natural thing for us to consume, nor sugar. Sugar is just toxic. Ain't no good way around it. It is just a toxin for us. That people can manufacture and they put this in stuff. High fructose corn syrup is just like, that should be like a poison, and it shouldn't be allowed in any food. Because it's just, it's just cheap filler. They're just trying to feed, that's like the grain. Like we had to do fields, and we had to do grain, making bread. Just more sugar breaks down in the body. But yeah, so I did a lot of that to kind of counteract some of the cancer. And then it just seemed to make sense. So I was just trying to do things, what is that, the Occam's razor? Where it's like the most efficient way to do something is the natural thing or something like that. Anyway. Yeah, and I like that too with like even religion. Like I never liked that if you had to be in a certain geography to get saved. Like, no, it's like you should be able to have everything you need where you are and in your environment. Knowledge-wise, everything that you need is within you. And it's like the thing, like needing a higher power to forgive you or because you're not worthy. And it's like, no, just forgive yourself. Like you can act, yeah, you just forgive yourself. And you stay in that moment. You know, it's like, whoa, Rob, I just messed up. You know, I did this thing. Man, you didn't do it right now. You did that then. You know, past doesn't exist right now. And the future doesn't either. And most everybody is hugging on to something, which is why we have the whole anxiety, depression thing. In your moment, you're good. You're just not really noticing your moment. Like right now, like rubbing a lot of it's good to do like simple things to even notice like your sensory thing or where you're at, how your skin feels. Just to remind yourself like you're here now. You're not in the future. You know, you can't prepare for it. Like you troubleshoot everything where you're just running through all these different scenarios and all this stuff, and it's no fun. But I mean, not that everything has to be fun, but it is. I mean, I think you create your reality. You really do. And your thinker doesn't like that at all. It wants attention. It loves drama in any sense. These things make it more important. And once you get more right, the other person is wrong. Therefore, you know, you're the victim sometimes. Victimhood is great. The ego loves being a victim. And yeah, so much our greatest, challenge is just what turns out to be ourselves, our own parasite. And I always made the analogy too that cancer is a parasite too. I mean, basically, it's a natural, and parasites are natural, but it's also natural to fluff them off and see them for what they are. And death is a part of life. I mean, It's like, duh, but we really don't wrap ourselves around that. Like, I'm noticing that too within the community of people really facing their death. Like, people are telling them they're going to die with the cancer stuff. It's like a lot of people just want more and more, and it's like, nah, it's like you got to really notice the quality of it as opposed to just like this quantity. And yeah, so I just started thinking, like, after last week's show, like the cancer thing, like, cancer is kind of trivial. This is all about noticing your moment. Like, noticing your now is the real practice that I'd like to kind of trip on. Because, yeah, I mean, this is, but then our now just seems like an eternity. Like, I was really tripping on that when I first got this new sort of diagnosis over my brainstem. You know, I'd gone through like 14 years where it looked like I'd pretty much, dodged the bullet, so to speak. And then I was like, wow, okay, it's back. So I was like, I live alone, so I was in my bed that night, and I remember thinking, I was like, man, okay, this thing's gonna come back and bite me, I guess. Because all the doctors were kind of freaking out by what they saw over the MRI. And so yeah, so then it was just like, okay. And then I really just started noticing like the moment, that I was in, and it just really did kind of grab me like an eternity kind of thing. It was like a real kind of little epiphany. But it's always like that drug thing. I don't know if you ever had it, like you're out doing LSD or something like that, and you get this crazy just kind of sync up with everything, and then you almost kind of notice it, just like you notice like the ego. Wow, I'm gonna lose this. Like, you're kind of in this real, I guess, enlightened state, and you can just feel it, and it's just like a vibration, like kind of connecting you to things, and then it's also, you kind of notice, okay, once you've had your first one of those, and then you've lost it, and you go back to this, the normal chatter or whatever, and it's like, yeah, okay. And it's like you can almost be okay with it. Because it's like you get addicted to it because it's such a beautiful kind of epiphany thing. But then also notice, okay, I know I'm going to be probably... But I guess you don't have to. You can embrace it. You just become like a Buddha. And I think our ego likes us to think that being, quote, enlightened is so difficult. And it's just more perpetuation of the ego. Whereas I think more enlightenment is our natural state. Going back to that joy, ease, and lightness. Like the three things, what is it? If you're around something that doesn't feel good or whatever to you, then you want to try and change it. If you can't change it, then you try and get away from it. If you can't get away from it, then you surrender to it. And then you can, I guess, do them over if it's really a bad thing. You can keep going. But a lot of things we gotta kind of, say things are what they are, and be okay with it. That's such a beautiful practice. And but yeah, I just see, I don't know, I'd like to say that we're getting more, but I see so many people that I think are so kind of almost spiritual in ways that are just doing subtle things that it's just like, no, that's just not, that can't be the way. Yeah, that can't be. If it's not inclusionary and it's not, yeah, I mean, if you're, anything, if you're preaching any kind of dislike or negative on somebody else, that doesn't mean you have to be around them. Like I said, you change them or change the situation, get away from it. If you can't get away from it, you got to surrender to it. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing that you're stuck around or it's healthy. But it's also just the ignorance of fighting what is. And yeah. But yeah, it's that kind of struggle. Anyway, I missed having my tunage here today. But I noticed that too, man. I'm bombarding myself with like stimuli. Like it ain't easy for me to go quiet and go... So that tells you a lot right there. Just with all the noise. We want distractions. constant distractions and stuff. But yeah, so the other thing I was gonna share with my family thing, man, that thing really went south. The whole, I don't know if y'all been watching on previous episodes with dealings with my pop and stuff. It's been really it just kind of crossed the, I guess, a line. We kind of like yeah, I couldn't change it, so I just said okay. But then I also noticed like my ego was almost wanting for a while like to set it straight, like to say some stuff, and then I was like, maybe that's not really necessary. I mean, it's necessary to deal with it when it's there and you have to, but not to go out of your way to do something that because what do you want? You want this result. So why do I have to? Only my ego would want to clarify it to one up, saying, "Oh, I'm right, you're wrong," you know. But it's like the thing that's like, no, this doesn't feel healthy, and so I want to be away from it. I'm not going to keep doing the same thing that's hurting over and over again if it's not healthy or I'm not finding joy out of it. And I think we all ought to approach that. But also the non-fighting thing. I mean, that's the thing with that. I don't know if I finished that thought, but my Reiki had taught me like not to fight cancer. Like you don't want to be fighting it because fighting begets fighting. I think the whole show has been kind of doing that. Us throwing out negatives creates more. It's not a healthy situation. And it goes right back to that like three things: change it, get away from it, or accept it. And that's a part of the thing with the I think the cancer too. It's like you get to a certain point, you just quote fighting it is just like no. It's just like it kind of perpetuates it. But I think asking it to leave is a good thing. And asking your monkey mind. I guess it goes to that same kind of analogy to please simmer down. And like a lot of times I noticed, like especially with this family thing that I was just talking about, I was getting really upset and stuff like that. Like it was really had hurt my monkey, and I would basically my other monkey probably would say, "It's okay, man. I know you're upset." Almost like talking to myself, and I was like, "You just go at it." Because sometimes it's like a lot of times when you're trying to sleep, you have that like chatter, like it's going on and on, like running all these different scenarios, and sometimes fighting it just gets it like more rattled, and it's like, oh, I can't. And it's like almost you got to make peace with it. Where it's kind of like before, it's like you don't have to like say, yeah, that's the truth. It's like, no, you're a monkey. You have to act like a monkey. I understand that, and you're hurt. And so you just go do your thing. It's like letting a child run off their temper tantrum. You don't have to get involved in it and embrace it, but it's like, okay, yeah, you're a monkey. You're acting like a monkey. It's okay. I'm sorry. Sorry you're hurting. But that's your job, kind of. Monkeys are about hurting. Because, and why is that? There must be a science of void. I was kind of thinking it must have, this whole engine thing must have kind of a, I don't know, like a float. It's got to be a flow of some kind. Like I was thinking there's like a void that's getting filled and we're all kind of falling every which way, Like like there's no up and down. Like they always say down south. And it's like, no, it's not down. You're on a ball floating. And, but yeah, I was trying to really articulate that guy's spin on their, like the kind of and it's not really anti-gravity, it's like I don't know, but he was really big, he's really big on magnetism. And definitely not big on, with the, in quotes, atomism. Like the particles are everything, like light is not a particle. And waves are not a thing, it's actually a like an action. And sound doesn't really travel. These are just but it's a lot of kind of cool stuff. It's an interesting way to look at things where you break down and say, wait, what was I being taught and who's really teaching me? It's like a lot of people you you really start to challenge stuff, and you start, like, even with your parents or something like that. Like, this whole thing brought about a bunch of people, their egos, and mine included, rewriting history based so that it makes their monkey feel better. And then you just, like, you know, it's like the Wizard of Oz thing. You pull back the curtain, it's like, nah, man, this is bunk. I want to change it, or I want to get the heck away from it if I can't change it. And if I can't get away from it, I mean, yeah, okay, I will accept with what is. It doesn't mean I can't go back to, in a peaceful manner, going back to change it. I guess you can stay on like a loop. But I think it's about finding peace in your moment and being in your moment. And your moment is typically pretty good, and if you really take aware of it. Like, a lot of times our monkey loves being depressed. It loves being anxious. It makes it right and others wrong in that sense. That there are things that were done to it that it wants to hold on to. And there are things that is going to be done to it that it also is going to make it a victim, so it's right. And it's a lot of things that are just to practice. Go easy on ourselves and do that rap. And that is the monkey mind. But yeah, I would say challenge a lot more stuff, and challenge it in, you know, in a loving, peaceful way, not really a fight. I think, yeah, maybe we need to come up with a new word for fighting. But yeah, I'd really stray away from all this. If you're finding like yourself superior to somebody else, or their thoughts and their beliefs, you probably need to go back into the bathroom and look in the mirror. That's always a good place to start. And the person in the mirror is where it's all at. But I am going to wind this thing down. But this has been my maybe independent voice. I don't know. How independent am I really? That's like somebody made a good statement on artists, like they were like basically thieves, and it was like a famous artist too. And it's like we're all just kind of borrowing and sharing stuff. Though I kind of like us to have our own stuff. I just see lights coming on. But like I said, I am going to wind this down, wind this down, and say monkey mind. All right, y'all. Y'all peace out.